If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
6 minutes after the hour, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to another exciting iteration of the Dr. Sky Experience. As you tell us, ladies and gentlemen, with great guests from the realms of astronomy, space, aviation, weather, celebrity guests, and yes, proud to say it, American exceptionalism. We love with the 4 types of conversation. You've probably heard it many times, but this beams out to those that are first-time listeners. The 4 types of conversation are debate, discourse, diatribe, and dialogue, and we sure love the conversations we have with you, the audience of 77 WABC, in the form of dialogue, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, in the concept of critical thinking. In order to join us for our 2-hour expedition as we open up our minds on many subjects, the contact number is 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222. And don't forget, you can listen, as many people do, and we encourage you always to check the previous editions of not only the Dr. Sky Experience, but how about all the other great hosts here on this radio station, 24/7, ladies and gentlemen, at WABCRadio.com and RedAppleAudioNetworks.com. A special thanks always to our helmsman, navigating, of course, this great signal of Talk Radio 77 WABC across the nation, around the world, and I'm confident even out into the cosmos. Our helmsmen are Tony and Bill. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for inviting me. Yes, me, Steve Cates, Dr. Sky, into your homes and into your minds as we explore many different subjects. In our 2-hour program this morning, as we move deeper into your weekend, we'll be talking about the subject of American exceptionalism. And what is happening, ladies and gentlemen? I'm sure you have many opinions on the subject that we'll be talking about. In just a moment, we'll be introducing our special guest, Kenneth Abramowitz. His new book, The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife, a bestseller. His website is SaveTheWest.com, and that's precisely what he'll be talking about throughout these entire 2 hours. A little bit of a background on our special guest. Kenneth Abramowitz is a managing general partner and co-founder of NGN Capital, a $450 million worldwide healthcare venture capital fund. He joined NGN from the Carlyle Group in New York, where he was managing director from 2001 to 2003, focused on U.S. buyout opportunities in the healthcare industry. Ken has been a staunch supporter and contributor to various organizations that are fighting to preserve liberty and to protect Israel and America from political Islam and the radical left. Mr. Abramowitz serves on the boards of the Israeli Independence Fund, the American Friends of Likud, and the Israeli Center for Social and Economic Policy, and he is also active in 25 pro-Israeli American Western civilian organizations. Ken is founder of the SaveTheWest.com, a website dedicated to saving Western civilization from itself, and he is also chairman of the Citizens for National Security, a Florida-based and grassroots national security advocacy organization. For this purpose, he gave well over 100 speeches per year for the past 5 years. 3 things that all mankind is seeking, ladies and gentlemen. First off, mankind seeks and longs for freedom, both personally and nationally. Second, mankind longs for prosperity, both personally and nationally. And third, mankind longs for peace and the means of escaping from the apocalyptic anguish brought on by the plagues of war. Talking about these subjects that should be the forefront of everybody's concerns out there is our special guest. We welcome Mr. Abramowitz to the Dr. Sky Experience. Good morning to you, sir, and thank you for being up with us. How are you this morning?
Very good. Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be with you.
I appreciate your time, sir. As I mentioned to you in our own private conversations, For many, many years, I spent a lot of time, and also with great sponsors, on another show that's in parallel with the conversations now, called The Call to Rights, on a very big station here in the western United States. And that beat continues, and many people may be wondering, Mr. Abramowitz, why is a guy who talks science, technology, and space even talking about these subjects? Why? Because I care like you, and I'm sure many people out there. Tell us a little bit more about your background and what really got you to drive this incredible website that I want people to go to, SaveTheWest.com, so important in these troubled times.
Yes, well, it was 9/11, actually, started my increasing focus on national security. Before that, for the 25 years before that, I was a healthcare analyst on Wall Street, working for Sanford Bernstein, now called AllianceBernstein, and working my usual 6 days a week, trying to learn as much about healthcare as I could to help investors decide what stocks they might want to buy. Then on 9/11, I said to myself, I must do something. I'm just an individual, and I must do something as an individual. And since the only thing I know how to do is analyze, I said to myself, I'm going to analyze 9/11. Who did it? Why did they do it? Why didn't someone stop them from doing it? And how do we get out of the mess that we got ourselves into? And I embarked on a now 25-year second career, which I do, by the way, simultaneously with my first career.
You're a busy man, right?
Yes. Learning as much as I can about national security. So I worked about 1 day a week for 10 years, teaching myself until I finally thought that I knew enough to start writing and talking about it. So that's how I got to now, where I spend about half my time on national security and half my time on healthcare analysis and investment.
Well, very well said, sir. And it's amazing because guests like yourself, of course, we have so many, avenues to explore here. But the book itself, I mean, this is a passion too that, many people share out there. What the heck is happening to America, and not only America, but the free world? And again, the title of the book, ladies and gentlemen, The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and the racial strife, which is a very serious series of subjects. But let's begin, of course, with what you describe as political Islam, because this is so important for people to hear. And again, what you're hearing, ladies and gentlemen, is in the opinion of all of our special guests. People may not agree with it, and maybe a large majority might. And that's why we talk with people like yourself. Talk about political Islam, because it seems to be in the news all the time. And define it for us, for those people out there that may not really understand what's going on between the short sound bites that they may hear in mainstream or legacy media.
Well, Islam is both a religion and a political movement mixed together. And in round numbers, it's a 50% religion, 50% political movement. And the reason I say that is I heard some speaker, I wish I could tell you his name, but I heard a speaker about 5-7 years ago, and he said, I know everything about the Quran. And the Quran, 50% of the Quran tells Muslims what they're supposed to do. I call that a religion. But 50% tells everybody else what they're supposed to do. I call that a political movement. So even though the two are intertwined with each other, according to Islam, I separate the two, the religion from the political movement. Yes. So, for example, if the Quran tells Christians, Jews, and Hindus what to do, my response is, well, is that your business? I mean, do I go? Does every other religion go around and tell the other religion what they should do? No, every religion tells the adherents of that religion what they should do. They can listen or not listen, but it'll tell them or suggest to them what to do. But we don't suggest what other people should do. So, for example, look at it in political terms. Can you imagine? Republicans talk to Republicans, Democrats talk to Democrats.
Exactly.
Now we do suggest that Republicans have suggestions for Democrats and vice versa. But a Republican wouldn't say to a Democrat, you should do the following things or I'm going to kill you. Say, hey, wait a minute. Right. Is that a political, that's a terror organization if you condition, things like that. Well, the same thing happens in religions. Now, by the way, in the olden days, 500 years ago, Christianity Catholicism would tell Protestants how to behave until Protestants say, I don't want to listen to the Catholics anymore. I'll decide for myself how to behave. And so religions historically have imposed their views on other people.
Oh, absolutely. Right. And look at the problems. I mean, not to pick on any one religion, from Christianity to the Islamic faith. I mean, many other religions around the world. Look, we've never had nothing but fights, wars, and death all throughout history on this. And, from crusades to other things that go on in the past, not to knock religion per se, but what we're focusing on here, ladies and gentlemen, with your, how do I say this? With your input, because we want your input on these subjects. Our very special guest, Mr. Kenneth Abramowitz, his book, The Multi-Front War. He's speaking in his opinion, defending America from political Islam, China, Russia, pandemics, and racial strife. And if you think about it during this early morning, many people may say, wow, I've had enough of this whole political craziness. I've had enough of these kind of topics. But no, the reason we're doing this, not by insistence, and thank you again for being with us, is because these are the stories, in my opinion, and our special guest, that are really not being talked about with any solution. Am I correct in that, sir? I mean, you're hearing problems, but there's no formulated plan to solve these problems. It just goes on and on and on. And then people shake their head and go, well, what am I supposed to do? So please continue. I mean, we're not attacking any one religion per se, but in your description, what's happened and what has hijacked Islam, in your opinion, in many areas of the world, and not to say all of the folks that believe in the religion of Islam are the problem. That's certainly not the case, and I think you would define that better. Please continue.
Yes. So, as you know, we protect freedom of religion. It's in our Constitution and Bill of Rights. So we believe in freedom of religion, but that does not mean there's freedom of political organizations. So, in other words, if someone says, I want to be a Muslim, my response is, you're free to be a Muslim. That's guaranteed according to American law. Sure. But if someone says, and I want to impose Islam on Christians, Jews, and Hindus, my response is, no way. Right. You have no right and no protection to do that. Now you've made yourself a political movement. And if you insist on imposing Islam on Christians, Jews, and Hindus through force, you're now a terror organization. And you should be treated as a terror organization. So it's not an attack on the religion. It's an attack on the politicization of the religion.
Absolutely. And in simpler ways, not to cut you short, in simpler ways, no religion has a right to call for the death of other people. And if that indeed is what's happening out there, I'm not naive. I mean, I read about this, and I certainly try to keep many of my opinions out of the mainstream, because I want the guests to come on and give us difference of opinions, and in their opinion, as you're stating. So this is very, very interesting conversation. My bottom line for wanting to have you here is very simply this. I think so many people are really not paying attention to so many of these issues, and we're just talking right now, ladies and gentlemen, about one of them in our special guest book, Political Islam. Where do we get to China, Russia, pandemics, and racial strife? So many things in his book that has 13, 14 chapters, and very much a wake-up call for what's really going on behind the scenes. Please continue. This is fascinating to listen to.
Now, this split is evident in the Muslim countries themselves. So, for example, 25 years ago, Saudi Arabia, who was complicit with 9/11, would have combined both Islam, the religion, with Islam, the political movement, and ended up killing about 3,000 Americans in the Twin Towers. Now, however, around 10, 15 years ago, under new leadership, Mohammed bin Salman, also known as MBS, he's reformed Saudi Arabia and gotten it out of the political Islam business and into a Muslim religion country. So it is possible for countries to reform. By the way, it didn't happen because America or someone told them they had to do it. Just they internally came to their own reasonable conclusion that they have to separate Islam, the the religion from Islam, the political movement, and get out of the business of financing terrorism. Now, other Gulf countries would agree with that. UAE, Egypt, Jordan, have outlawed the Muslim Brotherhood, which is the political arm of Islam, the religion.
Yes.
And so many of the Arab countries, many of the Muslim countries have come to the same conclusion, that they should treat Islam as a religion for the people who live in that country, but not export the religion to Christians, Jews, and Hindus, where it's not, none of their business what Christians, Jews, and Hindus do. And so, however, countries like Qatar and Turkey and Pakistan are still in the business of political Islam, and they have not reformed themselves. And I think the U.S. government should pressure those countries to reform themselves, just as Saudi Arabia has.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. You know, ladies and gentlemen, our very special guest, if you're just joining us here, sometimes we get a late start, but not by anybody's fault. Our very special guest, proud to call him a friend of the show, Kenneth Abramowitz. His book, as I mentioned many times, and will continue to promote, The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. And ladies and gentlemen, your opportunity to call us on many of these subjects that we'll be talking about. We're just teasing the tip here. 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222. And here, I want to jump on this because I want to do this before the bottom of the hour here, the first break, a hard break. This is interesting. With the Democratic Socialist, now New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, that's interesting. Mamdani, that's amazing. I mean, for people who don't like what's coming, or for people who do like what's coming, define what you think, in your opinion, is going to be the next 4 years in New York City based on what we've seen before. Describe this man to us, and what should we be careful of for those that are being affected possibly by this administration to come?
Well, there's Islam can be divided into two types. I just divided it into a religion and a political movement, but there's another way to divide Islam, and that's between Sunnis and Shiites. Now, Sunnis are roughly 85% of Muslims, and Shiites are roughly 15% of Muslims. And the reason for the two different groups is that 1,400 years ago, after the death of Muhammad, there was a dispute as to who should follow Muhammad. And the majority of the people went with one leader and all his successors, and that was the Sunnis. And there was a minority group who disputed the succession, and they thought someone else should succeed Muhammad, and those are the Shiites. So this divide is 1,400 years old, and it's alive and kicking, and they're still fighting this family feud. Now, putting it in American terms, just pretend that the Americans have been in America 1,400 years ago. And I told you that my great-great-great-grandfather and your great-great-great-grandfather hated each other 1,400 years ago, and therefore I hate you and you hate me. You would say to me, excuse me, it's 1,400 years ago. I don't even know why they hated each other, but
it's a long time ago, right?
That's right. Long time ago. Let bygones be bygones. We can certainly be friends. Okay, but that's not the way it works in the Middle East. So, 1,400 year ago dispute it's just as if it happened yesterday. So
interesting conversation.
Now, right.
This is fascinating. Go ahead.
So within that dispute, Mamdani is an adherent of the Shiites, the minority, and he's also what's called a Twelver. A Twelver is someone who believes, there's a group of Shiites who believe that the 12th Imam disappeared. And by the way, we're talking 1,200 years ago or so. He disappeared.
Yeah, it's a long time ago, right?
Yeah, but he's going to come back. If the world is in total chaos, he's going to come back like the Messiah. They call him the Mahdi. And he's going to come back and fix right from wrong and help the Muslims win. So now Iran is run by adherents of the Shiites and adherents of the Twelver theology of seeking worldwide chaos, to which will invite the Messiah or the Mahdi to come back and save the day. Now, Iran right now is run by what I call an Islamo-Nazi death cult. Because
yes, I would probably agree. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, from many Iranian friends that I have, they probably second your nomination of what you just said, sir. You bet.
Right. And it's a very sad state of affairs. Now, we've seen death cults in our recent history. Al-Qaeda and ISIS were death cults. If you go back into a little before our time, the Nazis were a death cult, and the Japanese Imperial Army was a death cult. And by that I mean these are just people who enjoy killing people. They say they have a reason. For instance, the Nazis said they wanted to kill Jews, and they killed 6 million Jews. But in World War II, 60 million people were dead, 54 million of which, or in round numbers, 50 million, were Christians. So you say to yourself, wait a minute, if you're a Nazi death cult and you want to kill Jews, why did you end up killing 10 times more Christians than you killed Jews? Because once you get into the killing business, I guess there's some adrenaline that kicks in, and humans basically become savages and or animals. By the way, it's actually worse than animals. I have an expression: if you could interview a lion and say, and pretend lions speak English, say, "Mr. Lion, why do you keep killing zebras?" And the lion would say, "Hello, I'm hungry. I don't go to McDonald's and 7-Eleven or whatever like you. And so there's 100 zebras. I'll kill one of them and eat them. And by the way, I don't kill the other 99 zebras just because it's fun to kill zebras. I kill one zebra and I eat them. What do you expect me to do? Starve to death?" So your analysis here, no, it's very well put and it's very well said here, and I think it's very well understood. But again, I thank you for doing this with us, because this is what you're very brave about this, and I say this and I mean this because a lot of people would not even take the time. I mean, you're a successful businessman. You don't have to do any of this stuff, but your roots, just like mine and many, many other people out there, saying, look, there's so many issues out there to destroy this country primarily. That's what we're talking about. And maybe you know this or you don't, sir, and I'm just going to mention it again to the audience, which they hear it all the time. One of the main mantras here of this talk radio station, 77 WABC, is truth, justice, and the American way. And that's a very powerful statement, and that's why they may be wondering, hey, why is a space and science guy talking about this? Because, look, I'm no better than anybody out there. We love guests, and we love guests like yourself that can give us these opinions to, how do I say this, wake people up from what might be happening underneath their feet, and with no reason to go to battle on this. I mean, we don't want to see anybody. We're not advocating any kind of violence toward any individual or any one person. And I say that, very clearly and very humbly, and nor are you. It's just that it's so interesting to listen to what's really happening around us, the destruction of the United States of America and other free nations around the world by forces that if you don't pay attention, you're going to be outfoxed. And, well, I always say it this way, sir, and I think you'll agree as we go to the hard break. If you don't know what rights you have, how the heck do you know what rights you lost? And more of that, ladies and gentlemen, when we continue. The phone lines are lighting up, as I would expect here, for our special guest, Kenneth Abramowitz. His book, The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and the Racial Strife that seems to be out there, of course, in our guest's opinion. We'll be right back with much more.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Dr. Sky Experience. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
A republic, if you can keep it. Great words from Benjamin Franklin, who wasn't a president, but he appears magically on the $100 bill. A little bit of trivia, but good about American exceptionalism. 33 minutes after the hour, our special guest for these 2 hours, ladies and gentlemen, privileged to call him a friend, Kenneth Abramowitz. His book, in its third edition, The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. Well, sir, let's go to the phone lines. I know you'd light them up, and here we go. Let's say good morning to Max in Manhattan. Good morning, Max. You're on with Kenneth Abramowitz. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Dr. Sky and Mr. Abramowitz. Recently on Newsmax, there was an interview that was discussing something that happened in Dearborn, Michigan. It was a beheading, a decapitation of about three Muslim women. I believe it was by their husbands. And it happened in the Dearborn area, as I said, and it was all covered up and hushed up and swept under the rug. This came from an interview of Carl Higby on Newsmax, and the gentleman who reported on this, who is a journalist / influencer, is the name of David Wood. I think this is extremely telling and extremely questionable, considering the amount of influence that Muslims have been having in Dearborn, Michigan. I'd like to mention something else, if I may.
Go ahead, Max.
If we're following this sort of mentality of the Middle Age, of medieval times or of the Renaissance, a good deal of what was happening with as far as war and peace and sowing seeds for food took place in an astronomical sense. And I'm emphasizing this because we are approaching the year 6000. And it's not just a Jewish calendar, it's probably a Chaldean calendar. And it seems that as we're approaching it, we're building up to some sort of tension. And what we see with Russia and China and Islam right now could be the physical manifestations of that tension.
You bring up some interesting points here. Let Mr. Abramowitz, of course, respond. And thank you. Stay on the line, Max, because we want to give you the last word, too, as everybody can. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, well, there's two separate issues that you brought up, so let me discuss the first issue first.
Okay.
How do Muslims behave to Muslims? In the first few minutes of this interview, I focused on how do Muslims behave to non-Muslims. Exactly. My point there was political Islam should be declared illegal, as it is in Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and the Emirates, because they came to the conclusion by themselves that Islam should not be exported around the world and used as a mechanism to take over the world. So now you're dealing with the issue of how should Muslims behave with Muslims. That's a separate issue. So Muslims have their own law. It's called Sharia law. And America has its law. It's called Constitution and Bill of Rights.
Yes.
And the question is, which law is preeminent in America? And the answer is pretty obvious to me, that it's Constitution, Bill of Rights. And everybody in America should be held to the Constitution and Bill of Rights, which was developed 250 years ago, but it came out of thinking of the previous 250 years. Now, Sharia law is law from the 7th century. So law from the 7th century, that's a long time ago, is not applicable to today, according to me, and not just me, according to the law of the land. The law of the land is Constitution and Bill of Rights. So to answer your question, we should insist on imposing the law, just as the laws imposed on me and you. We're not given a choice. It's not like a multiple choice. I'll take this amendment, not that amendment, or this paragraph, not that paragraph. So we have to apply it to the Muslims, just like we have to apply it to everybody. If they want to live here. If someone says, I don't want to live by the Constitution and Bill of Rights, my response is, here's a plane ticket and go to whatever country you want to, but not here. This is a
freedom of choice, but we are a constitutional republic. And not to cut you short, sir, but let's get Max to get the last word in our dialogue. Max, go ahead, because we got so many people that want to chime in on these subjects, and we've just scratched the surface. Go ahead, Max, if you're with us.
Yes, I'd like to remind everyone that what we see here with Mamdani, this is one mayor. If we look at England, they have 9 of these mayors who claim to lean to the left and are all pushing for Islam. And by the way, they have over 100 Sharia law courts in England right now. So I think that this is a good way to view what might be happening with Mamdani here in New York City.
Well, Max, I appreciate your time, and I think your message is heard loud and clear by the individuals listening to this radio archive here. Thank you for being with us, and hope you'll join us again in future programs. Let's say good morning, too, on line number 2 to Danny from Westchester. Good morning, Danny. You're on with Mr. Abramowitz.
Gentlemen, this show is a marquee show. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, China, Russia, plus other countries spend billions of dollars lobbying along with business deals in America, politicians, corporate people. The first thing these foreign countries tell the American establishment: keep the borders open, increase immigration and visas. The American establishment goes along. The American people tolerate the invasion. They invite millions of third worlders into America, and American people act surprised. They voted for third world, American-hating third world politicians. Listen, Saudi Arabia funds Wahhabism, guys, and it's really it's bad news for America until they get rid of the 65 Immigration Act. They'll never do it. But anyway, go ahead, and then I'll reply, gentlemen.
No, go ahead, Mr. Abramowitz. I mean, we have very interesting callers on these shows, and go ahead, sir, because I think Danny's bringing up some interesting points.
Well, it's a very good point. And now we had open borders under the Biden administration. Now, the Biden, we don't have open borders anymore. The Biden administration, I regard as a criminal enterprise. I believe they stole the election, but not for any reasons you saw in the newspaper. They stole the election through slander, nonstop slander of Trump. Nonstop
yes.
Russia hoax, China hoax, impeachment 1, impeachment 2. So, but anyways, they allowed open borders for the reasons you just mentioned. Okay, and the country is now dealing with the aftershock of having something like 20 million illegals added to the probably 10 million illegals that we had before. 10 plus 20 is 30. Out of the country with 350 million people, we're talking about, in round numbers, 8% of the population's illegal. So now what do? Those illegals have to be deported. They broke the law.
Yes, and excuse me, Mr. Abramowitz, this is amazing. I can't believe this. Danny and everybody listening, what is so wrong about ICE maintaining the law? They're the federal officers. I mean, they can supersede a lot of local jurisdictions, simply that. And people are out there thinking that this is horrible. The Democratic Party, for the most part, doesn't agree that people that are criminals and illegal should be deported from the United States. Simply total insanity. Please continue, sir, and then let Danny give a shot at it too, because we like to hear what the callers have to say.
So pretend you don't know me, and at 2:00 at night, I break through your window in your house or apartment, and I say, "Here I am, and I'm illegal, but I'm really hungry and thirsty. Can I have something to eat and drink?" Exactly what rights do I have? I have no rights, zero. And in fact, you have the right to shoot me for breaking and entering in a violent way. So the way I look at the illegals, they have no rights. And so therefore, by the way, the other 92% of the population has the right to be in a neighborhood free of illegals who have not been
Absolutely. It's what common sense, right? Ladies and gentlemen, common sense rules. You hear this on this radio station all the time. And again, we're doing this in the morning show, early morning, to do what? To bring a little different flavor to this whole conversation that I think many people out there are saying, well, wow, what's so wrong about deporting people that are criminal and also illegal? I mean, how can that not? And then providing benefits for people in insurance that have no justification, legality to be here. Danny, you get the last word. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry we're talking over you. No, but we're talking with you.
Well, this is a big subject, and I like to tell the people out there, 80% of the people who voted for Mamdani are foreign-borners who gained American citizenship. Third worlders are still coming here through legal immigration. We have to get rid of the 65 Immigration Act. Countries with visa violations lose visa privileges. If this is not done, you lose your country, okay, folks? That's what you have to know, because the third world is taking over America's big cities, and they're in suburbia now, and they're going to take over the whole country. When your ball teams are bigger, your professional teams are bigger than your country, then you know the third world is taking over, and they have taken over a lot of this country, and it has to come to an end.
Well, Danny from Westchester, thank you for being part of the show. Really, I'm serious about this. You may wonder again, ladies and gentlemen, why is the science and space guy talking about American exceptionalism? You know why? Because it's damn well important, and that's why we're trying to bring you the best guest in kind in their opinions. A very important show, ladies and gentlemen. We haven't gotten to you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll do our very best to get to you with your questions and comments before we go to the end of this particular hour. But our special guest, Mr. Kenneth Abramowitz, is kind enough to be with us for hour number 2, and we have only scratched the surface, right, Kenneth? We're just talking now about political Islam. We haven't gotten to China, Russia, the pandemics, racial strife, in his opinion. More when we come back, ladies and gentlemen, and the number, 1-800-848-9222. Thank you for joining and staying up with us during your early morning as we move into Sunday, deeper into the month of November. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Tribulatio ditat. The Latin phrase means trouble. Troubles make us stronger. As we continue to move through time and space, ladies and gentlemen, an interesting subject and a fascinating guest, Mr. Kenneth Abramowitz. His book, The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. We now continue. Let's go to line number 5, Frank in Maine. Good morning, Frank. How are you this morning?
Oh, good morning, Dr. Sky. I agree with the last 2 callers. This is a riveting show. Very, 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 very marquee. And good morning, Mr. Abramowitz. My question is actually a comment. If you talk to me, and I'm from Maine, but I'm originally from New York, you would never know in a million years. My mother was Christian Coptic, and she was originally from Sicily, but went to Libya when it was an Italian protectorate during. So now we see a differentiation in religions. And you mentioned Sunni and Shiite and Kurd. Well, I don't know if you mentioned Kurds, but those are terms that I don't hear anymore. I mean, they're out in the limb. They lump them all into this one Islamic umbrella religion. And my question is, now we have an influx of Islamic, I don't know whether they're Shiite, I don't know whether they're Sunni, but we also, at least up here in Maine, when I moved up here, I'm starting to see churches come up, and they're Christian Coptic and they're Arabic. Now, those are the persecuted, I believe. Okay. And my question, my comment is that, I'm going to put the blame on schools, because they don't teach religions like they used to. And we should know the differentiation between what an Arabic Coptic is and what a Shiite, Sunni, Kurd, whatever is.
And equally important, Frank, yeah. Now, equally important, Frank, from my side of the equation, when's the last time, if you have children, that they were there to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, or any group of people other than military veterans? So less and less about American exceptionalism. How sad. But please continue, Frank, because I want Kenneth to respond, and we have plenty of callers here, and I appreciate you, of course.
I totally agree. I totally agree, Dr. Sky. And, another little thing you don't know about me, before I moved up to my beautiful state, I lived in New York, and I worked for the New York public school system. And and we did say the Pledge of Allegiance, and the majority of kids did stand up. Some of them didn't. That's fine. But now you see the majority not. And I believe that this is all about educating. This is all about the media, exploiting like this hatred toward America, and people see it, and it translates to their kids, and their kids see it, and their kids do what their parents do, and the next thing you know, nobody's standing up.
And that's why, Frank, a lot of people here, of course, many people love this radio station, 77 WABC, because all day you're hearing concepts about America. You're hearing concepts about truth, justice, and the American way in a world where you don't hear that all the time. So I'm proud to be part of this. And, hey, we're all proud of, we should all be more proud of what we know of our cultures. But let's get Mr. Abramovitz to respond here because time is of the essence. And hey, believe me, we love everybody that's calling.
Our students are approximately 85% of our children, collective children, are in public schools, about 10% in private schools, and 5% in homeschooling. Now, for public school systems, they've been infected by our foreign enemies. We've allowed our foreign enemies to infect our schools and our teachers' unions, and to the point that I'm a big believer in universal school choice, namely giving money or vouchers to the parents to escape the public schools.
Sure.
So the question you're asking is, can public schools be saved? Well, there is a way to save them, but you'd have to put me in charge, so to speak.
Oh, God, yeah.
So there's three false narratives that permeate our country, and they come from our foreign enemies. They're not American ideologies. And I color code them: the reds, the greens, and the blues. The red is traditional color for communists, and that's China and Russia fingerprints all over the place. Green are the Islamists, which we just discussed. That's Turkey, Qatar, Pakistan, and their fingerprints are all over the place here. And then the blues, color-coded blue for the United Nations color, those are the globalists. And that's the UN, World Economic Forum, drug cartels, and social media, some social media companies, and their fingerprints are all over the place. The point I'm getting to is we would have to go book by book, school district by school district, find the textbooks that are permeated with the red, green, and blue false narratives, and take those textbooks out and re-educate the teachers to teach American values, not alien foreign values of the reds, the greens, and the blues. You can see what a monumental undertaking that would be.
See, common sense here. This is interesting, ladies and gentlemen. And Frank, not to cut you short, your last comment, because we've got to move forward here. Time is of the essence here. And I wish we had a super clock that we could do 42 hours, and I'm sure many people would like to hear it. So there you go. Frank, you get the last one.
Absolutely, Dr. Scott. You need a week, but nonetheless, I totally agree with you. Mr. Rabinowitz. I totally agree with what you're saying, and I believe that some of these unions have to be investigated because I think they are getting foreign money.
Well, here's what you need to do, ladies and gentlemen. SaveTheWest.com is the pathway because of the limited time we have. Frank, as always, from the great state of Maine, the Stephen King genius of fiction writing. Wow, we could talk about that forever, and one day I'm sure we will. Let's say good morning to Alexi from Queens. He's on line number 3, and you've been patient. You got the floor. Good morning, Alexi.
Good morning, gentlemen. I must begin by telling you I am a refugee, as Dr. Skyer told already.
Yes.
Political refugee seeking asylum in the United States. I come from a former communist country. I was there, I was young, and I advocated for America. I would listen to these broadcasts from overseas. I was secretly able to get documents about your country, and I fell in love with it, and I opened my mouth too many times. The police came. They arrested me twice, and I was warned, if I do this again, that there is a death warrant on me. So,
how horrible. Yeah, that's terrible.
I escaped my country. I managed to go to American Embassy and get protection as a refugee. I have been here 40 years, and I'm telling you, this country, without the United States, the world will collapse in a matter of a few years. It is that bad. The Russians, the communists, the socialists, the Chinese, and the Iranians are a disease that must be eliminated completely, must be destroyed, because these people are menacing this country. Pray to God that people like you are doing your job and making this country exceptional. And by the way,
yes,
excuse me, okay. Dr. Sky knows that in NGC 7000 is the thing called North American Nebula. It is an image, I swear to you, when you look at the photograph from the telescope.
Alexei, you're right. We're on to a different subject, Mr. Abramowitz. You're talking about the beautiful North American. No, you're talking about the North American Nebula.
Our destiny,
like
in other words, Dr. Sky, our destiny is in these stars.
God bless you, brother.
We must succeed. We must make this country as strong as possible to save this world.
Absolutely. Well said. Kenneth, we had a gentleman there who was just testifying not only about his coming to the United States and how important it is that everybody out there listening, I'm sure, would wholeheartedly agree, but he was describing a new general catalog object in the heavens, and for everybody who doesn't know, called the North American Nebula. It looks just like the shape of the United States in North America, and he was telling us again how important that whole tradition is for everybody here in the great United States and all freedom-loving people. Mr. Abramowitz, you get the floor here as we move to the top of the hour. And ladies and gentlemen, if we haven't gotten to line number 4, I believe Alina and Teaneck and Mark in Arizona, I promise we will do that if your patience continues. If not in this hour, we will certainly get you on the other side in hour number 2. Sir, please continue. You can see how people believe in many of the subjects that we're talking about here and how sacred this country is and all freedom-loving nations.
Well, the Reds, the Greens, and the Blues are all dictatorships. They're all unelected. They all want to take over the world. They all have no protections for minorities, whereas in Western civilization, minorities have protections, obviously. But the Reds, the Greens, and Blues do not believe in minority protection, and they believe that they have the right ideology and they have the right to impose that ideology on everybody else. And that's why we have to be vigilant and protect ourselves from the false narratives of the red, green, and blue. And this is both a physical war and a cultural war. In other words, sometimes they attack us with weapons, but more than that, they attack us with culture or with false narratives or with slander.
You say it so well.
We're fighting both a physical war and a cultural war, but we don't know how to fight a cultural war, and that's why we're losing the cultural war, because we know how to fight a physical war, but we need help in fighting a cultural war, and that's why I've dedicated myself to helping the country fight a cultural war, which is our key vulnerability.
Well, blessings again. I'm not just saying this for the hell of it. Again, in my words and other people like yourself, no existing government was designed to provide its people with freedom, prosperity, and peace. Therefore, the founders sat down to invent one. How about that? And this experiment, it is a miracle. I mean, if you read some of these books, ladies and gentlemen, about the origins of the United States, you find out that, wow, freedom, of course, we talk about that line. Freedom is not free, but look at all the sacrifice. And going back to what you said, Mr. Abramowitz, you know, the horrors that took place in America, 9/11, we're talking about the other horrific slaughter of individuals that happened in Israel, as many people recall, back on October the 7th of 2023. Horrible. I mean, I read some of those stories, and it makes me, as an adult, want to cry, because I can't imagine how humans could be so inhumane to other individuals. And you've called very simply for what you think what should happen to Hamas. Tell us again in very simple English. Go ahead.
Well, I think the Reds, the Greens, and the Blues are all criminal organizations, and they should be criminalized. Yes. So Hamas is part of the Greens and should be criminalized. By the way, let me just leave you with one thought before the break.
Yes, sir.
We Americans believe in life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for 100% of the population. That's the hallmark of America. It's taken from our Declaration of Independence. The Reds, Greens, and the Blues believe in life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for 10% of the population, namely the dictator, his family, and his friends. So you could say this is the battle between life, liberty, and happiness for 100% versus life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for 10%, namely the dictators. And that's war I call World War III, and that's where we are.
Horrible. The world is a ball of confusion to many, but it doesn't have to be that way. But again, we don't learn from history, and that's another thing that should be taught, not only to the children, but to all people that want to listen. Kenneth Abramowitz, great guest. He continues in hour number 2. What's his book? The Multi-Front War. SaveTheWest.com, ladies and gentlemen. If we haven't gotten to you, ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize, but we will get to you if you're patient enough to stay on the line as we continue here on Talk Radio 77 WABC, moving deeper into your morning with the Dr. Sky Experience, talking this week about American exceptionalism and ways to fight back legally and responsibly.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
5 minutes after the hour, ladies and gentlemen, another exciting iteration, as you're telling us by the number of people calling, a full caller board here to the Dr. Sky Experience as we move deeper into your weekend. And thank you for joining us, letting us into your homes and into your minds on great subjects. We're talking American exceptionalism, proud to say it, and our special guest, proud to call him a friend, Kenneth Abramowitz. His book, The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. His website that we ask you to go to, ladies and gentlemen, at your convenience, is SaveTheWest.com. Mr. Abramowitz, thank you for staying with us. I think we should go to the callers because this might be a record for this particular show. As I mentioned to you before, yes, we have a lot of people up early morning, and particularly this one. Let's say good morning to Mark in the state of Arizona. You're on with Kenneth Abramowitz. How you doing, Mark?
Very good tonight. You got my blood pressure up there going, you guys.
All righty.
Kenneth, I recognize you from Middle East Radio Forum. Is that correct?
Yes.
We were very good friends with Dr. Steve Carroll.
I see. Great.
And you've been speaking before on the radio. You're fantastic. People need to listen to what you're saying. I have 10 things I would just point out to you, and then I have a comment at the end about Alexander the Great and the solution to the problem. Islam has been very destructive ever since its foundation. In the book of the Quran, it explains quite specifically that Christians and Jews must be killed. So if a person calls himself a Muslim, and they really are a Muslim, and not a Zuhdi Jasser, who's an apostate to the Muslim religion, then you can't follow that line of thinking. You can't want to kill Jews and Christians. If you do, then you violate the laws of our nation. Constitution is against the Sharia. Sharia is not compatible with the Constitution. The other problem I see is that Islam has been a spiritual demonic type situation. It's a spirit, and it's a demonic territorial spirit that's all over the world in various places. Once it gets in there, like it's getting into England and France, those countries are gone. The only nation that can save America from the problems we have today is Israel. Nobody else is interested. And most people don't realize that God gave the land to the Jews. It belongs to the Jews. It's never been taken away. Bibi can't take it away from the Jews. Anybody else can't take it. The UN. It belongs to the Jewish people. There never will be a two-state solution. That's two-state delusion. It won't happen. Israel, if they break that law, God will punish them. The other thing, before I get down to Alexander the Great, Kenneth, is that people, when you have a country that attacks another country, like what happened to Israel, if it's a country that is attacked and defends itself and goes back and conquers the other country, the land that they own, the people that went into Israel, they lose all their land. It belongs to Israel now. It always belonged to Israel. But just to double show you all, the international laws don't follow when it comes to Israel. They turn their sides and they turn away.
Well, Mark, your point, if you can make it, because we've got tons of callers. You're very powerful in your opinions, and I appreciate you. Talk to us about the story about, you were talking, you had one more point. Alexander the Great. Go ahead.
Yeah. Alexander the Great was, had a teacher named Aristotle. When Alexander the Great was 12 years old, his father kidnapped Aristotle, who was a student of Plato, and brought him to the country there, and he was tutored for many years. That's why Alexander the Great was a critical thinker. He never lost a battle in any war. And he realized that when he went into Gaza in around 330, let's say BC, he killed every man, woman, and every animal, and he looted and burnt the place down. And that's how he got rid of the territorial demonic spirit for a long period of time. That is what needs to be done again. And then I'll let
Yeah, go ahead, Kenneth. Mark's got a lot of passion there, and he's charged up, as he said in the beginning of this, here in the state of Arizona, where I'm at. But, Kenneth, respond to that. There's a whole lot to respond to, of course.
Well, there's a whole lot of issues there. Now, Islam has been around for about 1,400 years, and during roughly the first 100 years, when Islam expanded out of Saudi Arabia to roughly 55 neighboring countries, those countries were largely Christian countries. So Islam, or political Islam, took over roughly half of the Christian world. So the Christians have been losing to Islam for 1,400 years, with a few exceptions. Europe saved itself in 1683 in the Battle of Vienna, where Europeans got their act together, and different groups within Europe got their act together. They wouldn't be called Europeans at that time. And they saved themselves from the Ottomans, who were the Muslim invading force at that time. So Christians used to know how to fight to save themselves. Christians have forgotten how to save themselves. So right now, Israel is doing 95% of the fighting against political Islam, or Islamism, or jihadism, whichever word you prefer, on behalf of the Jews, of course, but also the Christians and also the Muslims. And the number one victim of political Islam is Muslims.
Interesting.
So Israel's out there protecting, as I said, Jews, Christians, and Muslims from political Islam, and they get support from America and disdain from everybody else. If this were a perfect world, the Christians in Europe would be jumping up and down and applauding Israel for saving the Middle East from Islamism and then saving Europe. If Israel weren't there, the Islamists would roll right through Greece and then physically kill everybody, all the Christians in Europe. Right now, the Muslims are using demographic warfare, in other words, just moving people into Europe, and using demographic war, which is one of the 7 forms of warfare that I monitor, and are conquering Europe through demographics rather than through physical force, which they tried and didn't succeed in 1683.
Yes, it's interesting. Go ahead and finish your point, sir, because I want to remind the audience here that if you've been patiently waiting, we'll do our best to get you on the air. A very interesting story about many flashpoints around the world we want to get to. But I'm sorry, Mr. Abramowitz, please finish your thought.
So America right now is making many of the mistakes that Europe made 10 or 20 years earlier. So we have a laboratory, and the laboratory was a failure. So the lab test didn't work. So we have a chance to save ourselves. Now, closing the border is one key thing. Number 2, criminalizing Sharia law is another thing. And deporting Islamists who want to impose Sharia law on America. We haven't really done that yet, and we have to start doing that. And a final thing I'll mention, we should pass a law saying that Muslims cannot run for public office unless they renounce Sharia law.
Interesting.
In other words,
yes,
they have to say, I accept the Constitution Bill of Rights. If they say that, then yes, they can run for an office. But if someone says, I believe in Sharia law and I'm going to impose it illegally onto America and reject the Constitution Bill of Rights, I say, and I have to listen to you as a leader? You have a right to be my leader?
Common sense again, sir, and everybody listening. Mark, I thank you in Arizona. We got to move forward. People have been very patient, and we appreciate that. Line number 4, if she's there, Elena, if that's correct, in New Jersey. You're on with Kenneth Abramowitz. How are you this morning, ma'am? Thanks for your patience. I guess we don't have Elena. Okay, one more time. Elena, if you're there, please continue. Let's then move on to Jerry in New Jersey. Jerry, you've been patient. Your question, comment, or observation, please continue. Well, I guess we lost Jerry, too. Let's say good morning to Russ. And go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. Hey, if you're trying to get in, sorry, I know we had to keep you on a hold for a long time. If you're there, let's say good morning to Russ in White Plains. You're on with Kenneth Abramowitz. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, Dr. Sky. Thank you. Dr. Abramowitz, first off, I'd like to say that Palestine existed before Israel or even Judaism, and including Islam. Palestine existed. And, they call it two callers, Danny and Frank. It's the same person, Steve of Manhattan. He's very abusive and repetitive. He keeps going on about Islam and immigration. Dr. Abramowitz, I think ICE is acting like jackbooted thugs. I think there are Americans who used to say we have a Second Amendment remedy. But Dr. Abramowitz, I want to ask you, what about dual citizenship? Are people, United States citizens who fight in foreign armies, do you think we should have dual citizenship? And do you think that Israel has undue influence on this country? Thanks very much.
Hey, Russ, thanks for your opinion. Let our special guest, Mr. Abramowitz, respond to this. Interesting observations. May not necessarily be what we've heard from everybody else, but that's why we love the First Amendment, right, sir?
So, yes. Well, let me just give a 1-minute history lesson. Jews have been living in Israel for 3,800 years since Abraham, 3,300 years since Moses, 3,000 years since King David and King Solomon. So the Jews have more right to be in Israel than Americans have to be in America. I mean, what gives us the right to be in America? Well, we've been here 400 years. We fought some Indians, and we fought some Brits, and here we are, and we think we've been here forever. By the way, the French have been in France for 100 years, the Russians, 1,000 years, the Brits 1,000 years in England, Russians 1,000 years, but Jews have been in Israel for 3,800 years. So it's a very ancient culture, akin to the Chinese or the Indians, for example.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't gotten in on the opportunity here, we missed you, 1-800-848-9222. You could get a rebound and boost yourself to the front of the caller line. But if not, let's say good morning to Tony on line number 5 in New Jersey. Tony, good morning. How are you doing today?
Hi, Dr. Sky. Hi, Kenneth. This is just awesome. Two things that have been on my mind is looking internally to our country, which I think America should be a leader in this whole issue that you lay out. I love your website. Two things. Number one, we do have embedded in our government people who are proponents of Sharia law, and our government historically in 2 time periods screened for problems. They did it with Lincoln. Lincoln had required that anyone who was a Confederate not be allowed to serve in the government. And also, Eisenhower had the Anti-Communist Act. So if you were serving in certain areas of the government, you were not allowed. Now, currently in New Jersey, all over the country, we have mayors, we have people on city councils, we have senators, we have Congress women and men who are proponents of socialism, communism, and different levels of this. And so I always call the White House and say, we need to screen for this, because this is overtaking, the whole country. And number 2, and I'll make this my last comment, is that with these people who come into government, this politicization of Islam, or whatever you call it, whatever they're proponing that is affiliated with terrorism and terrorist sort of countries, is the defunding of the police, which takes away our right to sort of not focus on what our law is. But as we've seen in Dearborn and other cities, they're moving in with their rendition of the law and defunding our police and our legal system, and putting all these judges and people who are of the same, persuasion. As a country, America has this unique time, and I love the way you put it, that we really need to address it. And I just love what you said. And I continually call the White House and the Speaker's office and tell them this, because we are losing control of our own government. Thanks,
well, Tony, as always, that's powerful testimony. Kenneth, we obviously have many people that have differences of opinion, but responding to Tony, please continue. That's an interesting story. Share her opinions that she shared with us.
Well, one of the things we have to do, starting this second, is require national security clearance for all candidates for public office.
Amen.
Now, if you want to work for the Department of War or State Department, they're going to give you a national security exam, of course. Well, how about national security exams for people running for public office? And because we don't want the Reds, the Greens, and the Blues, these false narratives from abroad, the communists, Islamists, and globalists, infecting our culture, right? If someone says, remember I said we're in a country that believes in life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for everybody. So what if I say, vote for me? I believe in life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for 10% of the people. That includes me, my family, and my friends. And I'm going to steal the money from the other 90%. You're going to let me run?
No.
I don't think so. Hello?
No, absolutely not.
It's like having Don Corleone. Remember Don Corleone saying, "I want to be the mayor of New York." I don't think so. And so, but because we don't have that, we allow someone like Mamdani, who's a foreign agent from the Iranian, as they said, Islamo-Nazi death cult, and we allow him to run. What a travesty! Who was responsible for allowing him to run? He never should have been allowed to run. So. Yes, that would be the number one change that I would make starting immediately or even retroactively.
Yeah. Common sense again. And Tony, I know if you're there, you get the last word as we move forward with other callers that have opinions that we'd like to hear. Tony, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much. And, this whole defunding of the police, too, has to stop because we're going to be losing, all our sort of law and order. But thank you so much. And again, I love your website. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Tony, with us today. Kenneth, I'm going to move the subject as we move the marker here with your okay here. We obviously have so much to talk about, limited time. I'm going to talk a little bit about China here and reveal to the audience a speech that was given to me. It's in pretty much public domain. It's called The Secret Speech of General Qi Hoshan. And why am I going to repeat this or just read a little bit of it? It talks about how scary the Communist Chinese Party is and how resolved they are, with a focal point about what they believe we shouldn't exist in the United States of America under our Constitution. And it goes something like this. The speech goes like this. Comrades, I'm very excited today because the large-scale online survey that we did at Sina.com that was done for us showed that our next generation is quite promising, and our party's cause will be carried on. And answering the question, will you shoot at women, children, and prisoners of war? More than 80% of the respondents answered in the affirmative, exceeding by far our own expectations. If indeed brutal to kill 1 or 200 million Americans, but that is the only path that will secure a Chinese century in which the CCP, the Communist Chinese Party, leads the world, we as revolutionary humanitarians do not want death. But if history confronts us with the choice between deaths of Chinese and those of Americans, we'd have to pick the latter. As for us, it is more important to safeguard the lives of Chinese people and the life of our party. That is because, after all, we are Chinese and members of the CCP. Since the day we joined the Communist Chinese Party, life has always been above all else. History will prove that we made the right choice. End of long quote. Pretty scary stuff, don't you think, Kenneth? Wow, that's powerful stuff. And it's not fake.
Yes, but it's typical of the Reds, the Greens, and the Blues. The communists, Islamists, and globalists are all death cults. They all want to destroy America and Israel, by the way, and they hate Judeo-Christian values. They hate the Old Testament, the New Testament. They hate the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Now, someone could probably say to themselves, why do they hate the Constitution, the Bill of Rights? Why? Because they're criminals. Of course they hate the Constitution and Bill of Rights. Because the Constitution Bill of Rights protects people from criminals. And the criminals don't want Americans protected from their devious behavior. And that's why, and I call this World War III. By the way, you can also call it World War I. The war with the Reds has been going on for 200 years, the war with the Greens, 1,400 years, and the war with the Blues, 100 years. So I call it World War III, but it also has shades of World War I. This is a battle between civilization and criminals, and civilization better win. We cannot allow criminals to take over our country.
Sir, what, in your opinion, is the number one threat that we face from China if you put everything through your filter from the national security side? What would you tell this audience far and wide?
Well, the number one threat is the multiplicity of the threats. So let me just spend a minute on that. I had mentioned that there's 7 forms of warfare, but I didn't describe them. And there's 3 bad guys, red, greens, and blues. So if you multiply the 7 forms of warfare, which I'll describe in 23 seconds, and you multiply 7 times 3, we're actually fighting 21 mini wars in World War III. So to answer your question, the number one threat is, can we fight 21 wars simultaneously?
Not easily done. Not easily done, sir. No way.
Yeah, right. So if you were a juggler, I don't know how to juggle, but pretend that you do, and you're juggling 21 balls, and and they're all numbered, and I say, Mr. Juggler, which of the balls is most important? You'd say, excuse me, I'm a juggler, and I've been paid to juggle 21 balls, and so the number one challenge is juggling 21 balls simultaneously.
And don't drop the balls, right? Excuse me, there we go.
Right. Or I won't pay you anymore. So the 7 forms of warfare are kinetic, of course, things blow up, chemical and biological, COVID and fentanyl, for example. The Chinese Communist Party killed 1 million Americans with COVID and 1 million with fentanyl. Does anyone know that? Number 3, cultural war. That's what we've primarily been discussing. That's when you fight with words. By the way, we're all cultural warriors. Everyone on your show and your listeners. And number 3, you can fight with dollars. Number 4, with lawyers. Number 5, 6, with demographics. And number 7, cyber. So those are the 7 forms of warfare. And you have 3 groups of bad guys. And as I said, it's 21 wars. That's the number one challenge, is doing 21 things simultaneously. That's a real trick.
You better believe it, trying to keep all those balls in the air and making sure they don't hit the ground and go splat. So as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, the threat to this way of our life, America, the constitutional republic that we are, has a many-faceted front that's attacking it, eating away like what? Massive termites on a path of destruction here, and that's not putting it mildly. This is fascinating, and throughout this particular radio show, we see your calls, ladies and gentlemen. The lines are lighting up pretty much. Wow, I would expect this from a gentleman like this who's written so many things. He knows this, and, if we ever got started on the conversation of healthcare, you happen to have another, specialty area of expertise in that area, maybe for another radio show. Would you think that's fair to do at another time? How about that subject?
Yeah, sure. I'm equally happy to discuss healthcare or national security, and I spend half my time on each. It's just that national security, both of them have their mysteries, and people have questions, but national security is full of even more controversies and misunderstandings. So that's why I spend most of my time now on national security, but I'm very conversant on healthcare and always happy to discuss healthcare.
No, absolutely. We appreciate you greatly as we almost go to the bottom of the hour hard break, ladies and gentlemen. Still time to get in our radio show here with your questions and comments. When we come back from the hard break, ladies and gentlemen, on line 1, we have Robert from Philly. Line 4, Elena, thank you for coming back. Line number 2, Joe from Maryland. And line number 3, Donna from Huntington, as we continue to explore ways to keep American exceptionalism as proud and as big as it should be, ladies and gentlemen, in so many people's opinions, here on a radio show that you probably wonder, but I think you know the answer right now. Why is a guy who always talks space and science talking so much about American exceptionalism? Because we care. And ladies and gentlemen, you know your dedication to this country. I myself served in the military for a short time, like many of you. I spend time in the law enforcement world, like many of you. And all of those disciplines, we salute all of those individuals, and including our first responders, all the people that make up America. And you have to say this. I would think you would agree, Sir Kenneth Abramowitz. If you go to the airport, say thank you to the TSA. They weren't getting paid. And if you ever see an air traffic controller, maybe you'd say the very same thing. We'll come back, ladies and gentlemen. We'll dispense with our Sky Report this time, not because we don't care about the heavens, but because our special guest has shown us that this is a very popular subject here on Talk Radio 77 WABC. Always great guests, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to email me, drsky@wabcradio.com. I pledge to answer all of those, and we get some of the guests that we have on this radio show by your suggestions. We'll be right back and continue with Kenneth Abramowitz, the multi-front war defending America from political Islam, China, Russia pandemics, and racial strife.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we continue, ladies and gentlemen, 31 minutes after the hour. We're going to dispense and move directly to the callers here that have been very patient. Let's say good morning to Robert on line number 1, calling us from the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia. Good morning, Robert. Thanks for your patience.
Hi, Dr. Sky. Another great show, and as always, it's great to talk to you, and I really appreciate your wonderful guest, Mr. Abramowitz. I love the work he does, and I think that he does a great job articulating a lot of the threats that face us as a country.
Well
now,
said.
Outside of the racial strife, it seems like a lot of these are external threats that, you know, even in the Islamists that are coming, they're an external threat, but they're coming in, but I think that there are two that belong at the top of that list as far as threats to America. Okay. And I would believe that would be the current face of the Democratic Party, which facilitates the global socialists at every step they can. But the greatest threat to America is our utterly corrupt so-called mainstream media, because I believe that they facilitate a lot of these problems. For instance, the racial strife, the Islamization, I don't think that would exist if we had an honest media. I don't think that our Democratic Party becoming socialist would have been possible with a media that wasn't corrupt. And I think that if we had an honest media, not only would some of the other problems that Mr. Abramowitz referred to almost disappear, but it would make it a lot easier to deal with the existential external threats that would still remain. And I'll hang up in deference to my fellow callers. I want to be quick, but I'll listen to what Mr. Abramowitz has to say. And you guys have a wonderful weekend.
Well, you're awesome, Robert. Thank you, and you have a great weekend. Kenneth, wow, powerful callers here with concerns, questions, and observations.
Okay, so all the bad guys fit within my construct of reds, greens, and blues. So the media and social media, radio, television, would fall within the blues. I call them globalists. Because now with the Internet, you can have a show, for example, in New York, but someone in Sweden can watch it or watch a podcast later.
Right, global community, right. Mm-hmm.
Right. So yes, the media has become corrupted by the money of the reds and the greens. And the Democrat Party is not really the Democrat Party anymore. It's been taken over by the reds, the greens, and the blues. So the Democrat Party represents our foreign enemies. It's now an alien political party that does not reflect American values. Using my favorite term, this isn't theory. Republicans believe in life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for everybody. Democrats believe in life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for 10% of the people, just like their sponsors, the reds, the greens, and the blues. And so we're going through a mini civil war. Fortunately, we're not killing each other. We're yelling at each other or arguing with each other. And fortunately, we're not killing each other. And I dread to think about that. And so, but we have to, this is a cultural war. We have to win the cultural war. We have to say to the American people, we believe in life, liberty, and happiness for everybody, and don't vote for the Democrats. They believe in life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for the 10% of the people who are stealing all the money. It should be, in a perfect world, Republicans would get 90% of the vote, and Democrats would get the 10% of the vote, namely the criminals. And that's what it would be in a perfect world.
Let's go to line number 4. She's back. Elena, I believe you're there, and thank you for your patience and your call back to us. Your comment or question to Kenneth Abramowitz.
My pleasure. Thank you for taking my call. It was a technical glitch.
Oh, okay. Well, glad to have you back.
Yes. Mr. Abramowitz, I love your analysis and also your examples. Now, you had given us the example of the lion and the zebra. Okay, and you had mentioned fascism and communism. Now, America has been influenced by communism for many years, and Russia, through Russia and their political influence in America. Now, Russia has done as much killing and murdering of people, millions of people over the years through assassinations and starvation. why is America friends with Russia, and why is America accepting so much influence from Russia when Russia is both fascist and communist at the same time?
Powerful. Go ahead there, Kenneth. This is powerful stuff here. Our callers are zooming in on some amazing topics with their opinions. Go right ahead, Kenneth.
Well, there's a political problem here. Politicians, good guys, obviously have to get elected. And in a perfect world, which we don't live in, can you imagine a presidential candidate say, vote for me, I'm going to declare war on the Reds, Greens, and Blues. I'm going to triple the size of the Air Force, Army, aircraft carriers, and we're going to destroy the Russian government, the Chinese government, North Korea, Venezuela, Cuba, and Qatar, Turkey, and Pakistan, and the United Nations, World Economic Forum, the drug cartels, and the media and social media companies. How many people are going to vote for me? So the point I'm getting to is right. you can't blow up the whole world, okay? The world doesn't work that way, and you'd run out of resources and you'd run out of votes. So what we have to learn how to have a strong military, but the primary focus is fighting a cultural war. You don't need aircraft carriers for a cultural war. You just need people with ideas, mouths, brains, and fight these false narratives one by one by one. And it doesn't require, it's a form of warfare, but it's not a form of kinetic or physical warfare. That's the primary tool that we have to use. And so President Trump, for example, is a cultural warrior. But the trouble is President Trump has a million things to do. And Prime Minister Netanyahu is a cultural warrior, and he has a million things to do. And so,
and a limited amount of time to do it, right? Mm-hmm.
That's right. So I think both countries should have a Secretary of Cultural Protection. Now, it's actually a Secretary of Truth, but since nobody knows how to define truth, I would call it Secretary of Cultural Preservation to help the president, or in Israel, the prime minister, because they have so many issues to contend with. This is a separate job. Now, the bad guys have a minister of propaganda. In World War II, Goebbels was most famous as a minister of propaganda.
Yes, unfortunately, right.
Yeah, if the bad guys have a minister of propaganda, we need someone who's again, it's a minister of truth, but I prefer to call it minister of cultural preservation. We have a Judeo-Christian culture, the most successful culture in the history of cultures in the history of the world. Why don't we have a secretary who stands up and says, I represent Judeo-Christian culture, and I'm going to fight, not physically, I'm going to fight with my words, my ideas, and my teams against the false narratives.
Elena, you get the last word if you're still with us. Thank you for calling.
You.
And again, you got to.
Thank you.
Yeah,
yes,
you get a little extra time.
I'm
you got a little extra time because you were patient. Go ahead.
Thank you, and I would like to take the last word. How can we have a protection of culture, and what would the person, a protection who would protect the American culture when our schools are taken over? We have no say in them. Our local leaders are taken over. We have no say, and we have a fiasco in the Congress and Senate.
We do, yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Look at the long government shutdown. It's crazy. Yeah, I know.
Yes. So where's our culture?
Yeah. Well, you're depressing even me. So thank you for your
No way.
Even at this early hour. Wow, that's amazing.
That's right. I'm not usually depressed. But your points are well taken. By the way, remember I mentioned 7 forms of warfare. We have someone responsible for 6 of those forms of warfare. We don't have anyone responsible for cultural warfare. Now, so pretend that we had a Secretary of Cultural Protection. That secretary would say, hey, what school books are our kids reading? I'm going to take a sample of 10, if I have time, 50 different states. I'm going to read, or my team's going to read 10 history books. I want to see what those kids are reading. Oh, I can't believe it. It's full of false narratives from the Reds, the Greens, and the Blues. Oh, it's full of textbooks that come from England or other foreign countries, but they're not American textbooks. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to call the Secretary of Education and say, our education system is in massive disrepair. Let's sit down and have a task force and let's fix this mess. So,
well, Elena, maybe we should nominate Kenneth to become the Secretary of Cultural Protection here. What do you think? I mean, he seems to be the tip of the spear.
You have my I'm raising my hand. You have my vote. Mr. Abramowitz, it was a pleasure listening to you, and God help America, and you are helping as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Elena, in New Jersey. And we'll get to you, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to move through time and space here on the Dr. Sky Experience. Don't forget, you can learn so much more about our special guest, the website SaveTheWest.com. I know we're going to come up on this break again. That's fine, but we've just really touched the surface between China, Russia, pandemics, and racial strife, as we move into the morning. But I think you covered some of China and some of Russia, but let's talk a little bit. We got about 2 minutes, and that's not fair to you, but pandemics, look what it's done to this country. Look what it's done to everybody on a social scale, economic scale. Talk about it for a moment, and we'll carry that on after the break.
Well, chemical and biological warfare, by the way, I include arson there too, is the second form of warfare, number 2 out of the 7 forms of warfare that I monitor. So the Chinese Communist Party created the COVID vaccine and exported it around the world. And they ended up killing about 1 million Americans from that, and plus another 1 million with fentanyl. So this, by the way, if they had just blown up Phoenix and pretend that there's 2 million people in Greater Phoenix,
exactly.
We would be pretty upset about that, to say the least.
Well, heck yeah, it's my place. I'm right in that area. You bet. Don't pick on my town, right? But I get it. I'm just kidding.
Okay. So here they quietly and slowly killed 2 million of us over the past 10 years, and this is an outrage. But we haven't done anything about it. I mean, we did the best contending with it. Now, President Trump is trying right now to pressure and force China to stop shipping fentanyl to Mexico and then to America. And for COVID, we invented vaccines and therapeutics for that. So it's a form of warfare. They were very clever. I think their goal was to create regime change and get rid of Trump, and they succeeded. Unfortunately, yes. And that's how we got the Biden criminal organization for 4 years. But President Trump didn't give up, and so we have him back.
It's amazing stuff, ladies and gentlemen. You know, when you go to SaveTheWest.com, I'll do the plug for you. You have so many op-eds that you promote in there and your own writings. And are there any other things that people can listen or watch you as either a podcast or something that you could mention in about a minute or so?
Yes, I write an article every 2 weeks, and I have various friends write articles every 2 weeks. So one week it's me, and 1 week it's one of my friends, and so to keep the website fresh. And everyone should subscribe. It's a public service. It's complimentary, and there's a pop-up menu. You sign up for SaveTheWest.com. You get my article every 2 weeks. I also have some podcasts on my website, and I also have a link to buy my book, The Multi-Front War, through Amazon, but it's available on any competitor to Amazon. And I think people will enjoy the website, and I do everything that I do in national security. My 3 days a week I do as a public service, as a concerned American, because I said to myself, I'm an analyst, I know how to analyze, and this is what I have to do.
And you're doing fine. As we go to the break, sorry for cutting anybody off, but if you're on line 3 and you're Donna in Huntington and line 5 Karen, we'll get to you as soon as we return after this very last break of our 2-hour show and our special guest, Kenneth Abramowitz. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
49 minutes after the hour, let's continue with our special guest, Kenneth Abramowitz. And you, ladies and gentlemen, line number 3, we welcome Donna in Huntington. Good morning, and thank you for your patience. You're on the air.
Yes, hello, how are you? I just wanted to say hello to your guest. I've been listening to your show, and it's really validating what I live in Long Island, in Huntington, Long Island, the North Shore of Long Island. And at the moment, for the last year or two, I've been doing full-time food deliveries. And I've been noticing something that's, because I've lived here my whole entire life, 59 years. Yes. Now, I've been noticing as I'm driving around, I'm seeing like huge palace-sized Islamic centers going up everywhere. There's been several restaurants that I've been to in Huntington, Long Island, where you go into the restaurant and there's women sitting at the table completely veiled in a black, covering their head and face all the way down to the floor with just slits in the eyes and everything, all over Huntington. And I'm like thinking, like, what is going on here, right? Now, I also had my parents' house. This is like 10 years ago, actually, though, but it was recently in 2022. It's a long story, but the short version of this is my brothers put it into foreclosure and auctioned it off to steal the money from the house. That's a whole other issue. But the people buying the house were Islamic Pakistanis, a whole group of them. And I'm actually thinking this is how they're slowly infiltrating all over. They're buying up all the property out here.
Well, let Kenneth respond. We're short on time, but your observations are well heard. Our ears are open. Continue on, Kenneth. This is interesting.
Well, you're witnessing, of my 7 forms of warfare, you're witnessing demographic warfare. Demographic warfare is when you come to America illegally and you bring your alien culture. That's number 3 form of warfare, cultural warfare. So you're watching cultural warfare and demographic warfare in action. And who's doing anything about it? Where's the FBI? Where's the immigration? Where's ICE? Who's not deporting these? They're not all illegals, but who's not deporting them? And by the way, who's not insisting that they accept Constitution Bill of Rights? Who's not going to the mosques and the imams and saying you have to reject Sharia law and accept Constitution and Bill of Rights? We're going to look at the books. We're going to look at your sermons. And if you advocate for Sharia law, which is against the Constitution Bill of Rights, we're going to deport you too. And so we're not doing our job. They're doing their job to take over our country and our culture. We're not doing our job to protect our culture.
Donna in Huntington, thank you for your observations and your report, boots on the ground kind of observation. We appreciate you. Let's try to go to line 5 with Karen in New Jersey. Good morning. Your question or comment before the clock runs out.
Yes, I'm reminded that the earth is the Lord's and all it contains, and God has the right to give the land of Israel to whomever he chooses. He promised it to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their descendants, and commanded them to go in and to possess the land. So it really doesn't matter who was there first. Number 2, the United States have had everything to do with that lab in China. Although China released that the COVID, that amount of people in the United States and in the world would not have died if it were not for the Biden administration to withhold ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, which would have knocked it out right away. But he made it like kind of illegal to do that. And so it's not just COVID that killed people. It was also the vaccine. And the last
go ahead, please.
Comment.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
The last comment. Why is the United States allowing Qatar to build a naval base on our soil? Thank you.
Interesting observations, Kenneth. Obviously, many, many concerns out there. Please continue.
Yes, I believe America was financing that Wuhan laboratory because America had a law preventing what's called gain of function. In other words, strengthening the ability of a virus to infect people. And so America was, it was like, in effect, a joint venture of America and China. So it was outrageous because rogue elements of our government were involved in the Chinese development of COVID. So that's pretty bad. Now, bear in mind, the Democrats were working for the Reds, the Greens, and the Blues. So they acted consistent with their overlords. But fortunately, real Americans regained the country. But we've only regained about half the country. Half the country is still controlled by the Reds, Greens, and the Blues, and we have to kick them out. By the way, in terms of Israel, the Jews have been there 3,800 years. Before that, there were the Canaanites. There's no Canaanites. They were the pagans who were living there at the time. The Arabs didn't come till about the year 650 when they illegally invaded and occupied Israel, having come from Saudi Arabia. And the so-called Palestinians have only been there about 150 years as the Jews moved back to Israel and there were jobs. Arabs from Lebanon, the neighboring countries, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Egypt, came to into Israel for jobs. So in round numbers, Jews have been there 3,800 years and local Arabs for 150 years. It's not even close, not even a close contest.
We're short on time. Let's say thank you to Karen and hope she calls again. Let's now go to line number 1. Lauren in New Jersey. You'll have to be brief, but again, thank you for your patience.
Dr. Sky, I think we all want to applaud you for having this guest tonight, Kenneth Abramowitz. I've never heard of you, Kenneth. Your wealth of knowledge, you're speaking the truth. Our President Donald Trump needs to have you in his Oval Office at least once a day.
Amen.
And I hope that John Catsimatidis will have Kenneth Abramowitz on more. And Mr. Abramowitz, I believe we did have a minister of our preservation of culture, Judeo-Christianity, and his name was Charlie Kirk. And who do you think was behind eliminating him? He was reaching the masses of young people versus what's going on in our colleges. And I thank you so much. I pray for you, and I pray that we all hear from you more. Thank you so much.
Lauren, thank you for your compliments and the insightful comments here. Let's say before you do respond, Kenneth, I wanted to close out the show by line number 2. Charles has been patient in New Jersey. You'll have to be brief, but good morning to you, and thanks for your patience.
Doc, and good morning, Ken. This is Charles. I have a problem. The Congress, the legislative section, aren't doing their job. Everything that the president had, is it by decree? I don't know what he did, but all that he did, why couldn't the Congress take it over and codify them?
Interesting question.
Also,
yes.
Yes. Also, you talk of the Democratic Party. They are not Democratic Party. I call them Democratic Party.
Wow. Okay. Powerful
yes,
stuff.
I'm very, you can detect my accent. Last of all,
yes,
when I came to this country 45 years ago, it was United States of America versus USSR. The first thing I said was that no country will defeat United States. America will self-destruct. Do you agree with me, sir? And that's out of ignorance. That's my
Charles, thank you. We're short on time. I want to give Kenneth the last word here, but I appreciate your patience, and you bring up some good points. As a person who's come from another country, you understand the great exceptionalism of America. Kenneth, you get the last word here, of course.
Yeah, your analysis is very good. That challenge we have is half the country's been their brains have been taken over through cultural warfare by the Reds, the Greens, and the Blues. We have to kick those ideas out primarily by better arguments, in other words, with words. And we have to do a better job confronting those arguments. Relative to the first questioner, Charlie Kirk would have been a great Secretary of Cultural Preservation. Right. He, in effect, was an unofficial Secretary of Cultural Preservation. Unfortunately, we didn't protect him. In other words, we didn't appreciate how valuable he was. And he should have had basically Secret Service protection, even though he wasn't a government employee.
Kenneth, thank you for your time. I hope we do this again, SaveTheWest.com. And from a show that Kenneth and I were talking about, he thought I said I wanted him on for 5 hours. I wish I could. But Kenneth, I hope you'll do this again with us. And God bless you and the rest of the folks that are listening. Clear skies, good health. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you on the next edition of the Dr. Sky Experience. Thank you to Kenneth Abramowitz.
Thanks for listening to the Dr. Sky Experience. You can hear the Dr. Sky Experience Saturday mornings, midnight to 2 a.m. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy.
Download and subscribe
at BeBullish.com.